Question 1. The analysis reveals that an applicant to Hikma University College has submitted an application form that contains information regarding their previous academic performance, which appears to contradict the official transcript provided. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee to uphold the integrity of the admissions process while ensuring fairness to the applicant? Option A. Proceed with the application review without addressing the discrepancy, prioritizing timely processing. Option B. Forward the application to a higher authority for an immediate disciplinary review of the applicant. Option C. Immediately reject the application due to the apparent inconsistency, assuming deliberate misrepresentation. Option D. Contact the applicant to request clarification and additional documentation to reconcile the conflicting information before making a decision. The correct answer is C. Immediately reject the application due to the apparent inconsistency, assuming deliberate misrepresentation. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where an applicant for Hikma University College has provided information that appears to be inconsistent with their academic record. This presents a professionally challenging situation for the admissions committee, requiring a delicate balance between upholding the integrity of the admissions process and ensuring fair evaluation of all applicants. The challenge lies in discerning genuine discrepancies from potential errors or misinterpretations, necessitating a thorough and unbiased investigation. Careful judgment is required to avoid premature conclusions and to gather sufficient evidence before making a decision. The correct approach involves a systematic and transparent process of verification. This entails cross-referencing the applicant's submitted documents with official transcripts and any other verifiable sources. If discrepancies are found, the applicant should be given a fair opportunity to clarify or provide further documentation. This approach aligns with the principles of fairness, due process, and academic integrity, which are fundamental to any reputable educational institution's admissions policy. It ensures that decisions are based on verified facts and that applicants are treated equitably. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based solely on the initial perceived discrepancy without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of administrative errors or the applicant's right to explain. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the discrepancy entirely, which compromises the integrity of the admissions process and could lead to admitting unqualified candidates. Furthermore, an approach that involves making assumptions about the applicant's intent without seeking clarification would be ethically unsound and professionally irresponsible. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes evidence-based assessment. This involves establishing clear verification procedures, documenting all findings, and ensuring that any communication with applicants regarding discrepancies is professional and provides them with an opportunity to respond. The process should be guided by the university's stated admissions policies and ethical guidelines, ensuring consistency and fairness across all applications. Question 2. Operational review demonstrates that an applicant for Hikma University College has submitted an application that, while meeting most standard academic requirements, presents a unique personal circumstance that may warrant special consideration according to the spirit of equitable access, but is not explicitly covered by the Hikma University College entrance exam's published admission criteria. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure regulatory compliance and fairness? Option A. Inform the applicant that their situation does not meet the explicit criteria, and therefore they cannot be considered for admission without further review. Option B. Discuss the applicant's situation informally with senior faculty members to gauge their opinion before making any decision. Option C. Consult with the Hikma University College Admissions Committee or the designated authority responsible for admissions policy interpretation to seek guidance on how to assess the applicant's unique circumstances within the existing regulatory framework of the Hikma University College entrance exam. Option D. Grant admission to the applicant based on a personal assessment of their circumstances, assuming the university's intent is to be flexible. The correct answer is C. Consult with the Hikma University College Admissions Committee or the designated authority responsible for admissions policy interpretation to seek guidance on how to assess the applicant's unique circumstances within the existing regulatory framework of the Hikma University College entrance exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts between established university policies and the practical realities of student admissions, while adhering strictly to the Hikma University College entrance exam's regulatory framework. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring fairness and compliance in the admissions process, especially when faced with information that might suggest an applicant's circumstances warrant special consideration, but could also be interpreted as a deviation from standard procedures. Careful judgment is required to balance the university's commitment to academic standards with its responsibility to provide equitable opportunities, all within the defined examination guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented review of the applicant's situation against the Hikma University College entrance exam's stated admission criteria and any supplementary guidelines for exceptional circumstances. This approach is correct because it prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework of the Hikma University College entrance exam. By seeking clarification from the relevant university admissions committee or designated authority, the individual ensures that any decision made is in line with official policy and precedent. This upholds the integrity of the admissions process, promotes transparency, and provides a defensible basis for the final decision, thereby complying with the spirit and letter of the examination's regulatory requirements. An incorrect approach would be to unilaterally grant admission based on a personal interpretation of the applicant's circumstances without consulting the appropriate university bodies or referencing the official examination guidelines. This fails to respect the established regulatory framework and could lead to inconsistent application of admission standards, potentially undermining the fairness and credibility of the Hikma University College entrance exam process. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant's situation outright without any form of review or consideration, even if it appears to fall outside the standard criteria. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and could be seen as an arbitrary or unfair decision, failing to explore potential avenues for accommodation or exception, as might be permitted by the Hikma University College entrance exam's underlying principles or supplementary regulations. A further incorrect approach would be to rely on informal discussions or anecdotal evidence from other staff members to make a decision. This bypasses the official channels for decision-making and lacks the necessary documentation and authority, thereby violating the procedural requirements inherent in a regulated admissions process like that of the Hikma University College entrance exam. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, understanding the specific regulatory framework and guidelines applicable to the Hikma University College entrance exam. Second, gathering all relevant information about the case. Third, assessing the information against the established criteria and identifying any ambiguities or potential exceptions. Fourth, consulting with the appropriate authorities or seeking clarification on policy interpretation. And finally, documenting the decision-making process and the rationale behind the final outcome. Question 3. To address the challenge of ensuring a fair and transparent admissions process at Hikma University College, an applicant discovers that a close relative is a member of the admissions committee responsible for reviewing their application. What is the most appropriate course of action for the applicant to take? Option A. Immediately inform the admissions committee of the familial relationship and request guidance on how to proceed. Option B. Discreetly ask the relative to withdraw from the committee for the duration of the application review period. Option C. Omit any mention of the familial relationship and hope it does not become an issue during the review. Option D. Proceed with the application as normal, assuming the relative will act impartially and not disclose the relationship. The correct answer is A. Immediately inform the admissions committee of the familial relationship and request guidance on how to proceed. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles governing academic integrity and ethical conduct within the context of university admissions, specifically as it pertains to Hikma University College. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response when faced with a situation that could potentially compromise the integrity of the application process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the applicant's actions align with the values and regulations expected by the institution. The correct approach involves proactively and truthfully disclosing any potential conflicts or issues that might arise during the application process. This demonstrates honesty, transparency, and a commitment to ethical conduct, which are paramount for admission into any reputable academic institution. Specifically, acknowledging a potential conflict of interest and seeking guidance from the admissions committee aligns with the principles of good governance and ethical decision-making, ensuring that the application is reviewed fairly and without undue influence. This approach respects the integrity of the admissions process and upholds the standards of Hikma University College. An incorrect approach would be to attempt to conceal or downplay the potential conflict. This action is ethically unsound as it involves deception and a lack of transparency. It violates the implicit trust placed in applicants to provide accurate and complete information. Furthermore, it could lead to the invalidation of the application if discovered later, resulting in severe consequences for the applicant. Another incorrect approach would be to proceed without seeking clarification, assuming the conflict is minor or inconsequential. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and an underestimation of the importance of ethical considerations in academic admissions. It fails to proactively address a potential issue that could compromise the fairness of the selection process. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes honesty, transparency, and adherence to established rules and ethical guidelines. When faced with a situation that presents a potential conflict of interest or ethical dilemma, the first step is to identify the nature of the issue. Subsequently, one should consult relevant institutional policies, codes of conduct, or regulatory frameworks. If ambiguity remains, seeking guidance from appropriate authorities or supervisors is crucial. The decision should always aim to uphold the highest ethical standards and ensure fairness and integrity in all professional dealings. Question 4. The review process indicates that an applicant to Hikma University College has submitted a personal statement that appears to contain plagiarized content based on a preliminary comparison with publicly available online sources. The admissions committee is aware of this discrepancy. Which of the following actions best upholds the integrity of the Hikma University College admissions process? Option A. Forward the application to the Academic Integrity Committee for a full disciplinary hearing before any admissions decision is made. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant's submission based on the initial suspicion of plagiarism to maintain the college's standards. Option C. Proceed with a formal investigation into the alleged plagiarism, providing the applicant an opportunity to explain the discrepancy, and making a decision based on the findings and Hikma University College's academic integrity policy. Option D. Contact the applicant's previous institution to verify the originality of their submitted work, without informing the applicant of the specific allegation. The correct answer is C. Proceed with a formal investigation into the alleged plagiarism, providing the applicant an opportunity to explain the discrepancy, and making a decision based on the findings and Hikma University College's academic integrity policy. Explanation. The review process indicates a potential breach of academic integrity by a student applying to Hikma University College. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a careful balance between upholding the college's admission standards and ensuring fairness to the applicant. The admissions committee must act diligently and impartially, adhering strictly to Hikma University College's established admission policies and ethical guidelines for evaluating applications. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented investigation into the alleged academic misconduct. This includes gathering all relevant evidence, providing the applicant with an opportunity to respond to the allegations, and making a decision based solely on the established admission criteria and the evidence presented. This aligns with Hikma University College's commitment to academic honesty and fair evaluation, ensuring that all applicants are assessed equitably and that the integrity of the admissions process is maintained. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application without a proper investigation. This fails to provide due process to the applicant and could lead to an unfair decision. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the alleged misconduct due to external pressures or a desire to fill a quota, which compromises the integrity of the admissions process and violates ethical principles of fairness and transparency. Ignoring the allegations or making a decision based on incomplete information would also be professionally unacceptable, as it undermines the credibility of the college and its admission standards. Professionals in admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes adherence to institutional policies, ethical conduct, and due diligence. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering all pertinent facts, consulting relevant policies and guidelines, considering all perspectives, and making a reasoned, documented decision. In cases of alleged misconduct, this process must include a fair hearing and an opportunity for the applicant to present their case. Question 5. What factors determine the Al-Hikma University College's admission committee's decision-making process for prospective students? Option A. The applicant's demonstrated financial capacity to cover tuition and living expenses. Option B. The applicant's highest achieved academic scores across all subjects. Option C. The subjective impressions of the admissions committee members during brief interviews. Option D. A comprehensive evaluation of academic performance, personal attributes, and alignment with the college's mission and values. Correct answer is D. A comprehensive evaluation of academic performance, personal attributes, and alignment with the college's mission and values. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles governing university admissions, specifically within the context of Al-Hikma University College's regulatory framework. The challenge lies in identifying the primary drivers of admission decisions, which are not solely based on academic merit, but also encompass broader institutional goals and legal compliance. A deep understanding of these factors is crucial for both the institution in its selection process and for prospective students in understanding what is valued. The correct approach emphasizes a holistic review that balances academic achievement with other relevant criteria, aligning with the likely regulatory framework of a university entrance exam. This approach is correct because it reflects a commitment to fairness, diversity, and the institution's mission. Regulatory frameworks for educational institutions typically mandate that admissions processes be transparent, non-discriminatory, and designed to select candidates who are likely to succeed and contribute to the university community. This often involves considering a range of factors beyond raw scores, such as personal statements, extracurricular activities, and potential for growth, all of which are evaluated against established institutional policies and any overarching educational regulations. An approach that solely prioritizes academic scores, while seemingly objective, fails to acknowledge the multifaceted nature of student potential and the broader objectives of higher education. This can lead to the exclusion of promising candidates who may possess strong leadership qualities, unique perspectives, or demonstrate resilience in overcoming challenges, all of which are valuable assets to a university. Ethically, this narrow focus can be seen as discriminatory if it disproportionately disadvantages students from backgrounds where access to certain academic resources might be limited. Another incorrect approach, focusing exclusively on the applicant's financial capacity, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Admissions processes are fundamentally designed to be merit-based and equitable, not to serve as a revenue-generating mechanism for the institution. Prioritizing financial means over suitability for the program would violate principles of equal opportunity and could expose the university to legal challenges related to discriminatory practices. Finally, an approach that relies on arbitrary or subjective criteria not clearly defined within the university's admissions policy would be problematic. This lacks transparency and fairness, making the admissions process vulnerable to bias and undermining public trust. Regulatory guidelines for educational institutions typically require clear, documented admissions criteria to ensure consistency and accountability. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a thorough understanding of the institution's mission, values, and governing regulations. It requires a commitment to fairness, equity, and transparency. Professionals involved in admissions must critically evaluate each applicant against a well-defined set of criteria, ensuring that the process is both legally compliant and ethically sound, ultimately serving the best interests of both the students and the institution. Question 6. The monitoring system demonstrates that an applicant for the Al-Hikma University College has submitted a reference letter that appears to be from an unrecognized institution, raising concerns about its authenticity and validity according to the college's admission guidelines. Option A. Immediately reject the applicant's application due to the questionable reference letter, as per the strict interpretation of submission requirements. Option B. Accept the applicant based on the strength of their academic record and the perceived urgency to fill the remaining admission slots, overlooking the reference letter issue. Option C. Proceed with the admission process after verifying the applicant's other qualifications and seeking a replacement reference letter from a recognized source. Option D. Contact the applicant to request immediate clarification and documentation to validate the reference letter from the unrecognized institution before making any decision. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the admission process after verifying the applicant's other qualifications and seeking a replacement reference letter from a recognized source. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an individual to balance the immediate need for information with the strict adherence to Hikma University College's established regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for student admissions. Pressure to fill a limited number of places can lead to shortcuts or overlooking critical compliance steps. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all actions taken are within the defined legal and ethical boundaries of the university's admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's documentation against the Hikma University College's stated admission criteria and the relevant internal policies governing the admissions process. This ensures that the decision is based on objective, verifiable information and that the university adheres to its own established procedures, thereby upholding fairness and transparency. This aligns with the principle of regulatory compliance, which mandates that all institutional processes, especially admissions, must be conducted according to established rules and guidelines to maintain the integrity of the institution and ensure equal opportunity for all applicants. An incorrect approach that involves accepting the applicant based on a verbal assurance without verifying the submitted documents fails to comply with the university's established documentation requirements. This bypasses the due diligence expected in any admissions process and could lead to admitting unqualified students, undermining the academic standards of Hikma University College. It also creates a precedent for non-compliance, potentially opening the door to future irregularities. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately reject the applicant due to a minor discrepancy without further investigation or allowing for clarification, might be overly rigid and could violate principles of fairness and due process. While compliance is crucial, the regulatory framework often allows for reasonable steps to resolve minor issues before a final decision is made, especially if the discrepancy does not fundamentally affect the applicant's eligibility. This approach risks overlooking potentially strong candidates due to an inflexible interpretation of the rules. A third incorrect approach, which is to proceed with the admission based on the applicant's perceived potential or the urgency to fill a spot, directly contravenes the principle of merit-based admission and regulatory compliance. Admissions must be based on established criteria and documented evidence, not on subjective assessments or expediency. This approach compromises the integrity of the admissions process and could lead to legal or ethical challenges. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the Hikma University College's admissions policies and regulatory framework. When faced with an anomaly, the professional should first identify the specific rule or policy that is potentially being violated. Then, they should consult the relevant documentation and internal guidelines to determine the appropriate procedure for handling such discrepancies. This might involve seeking clarification from the applicant, consulting with a supervisor or admissions committee, or following a defined process for exceptions or appeals. The ultimate goal is to make a decision that is both compliant with regulations and ethically sound, ensuring fairness and maintaining the institution's reputation. Question 7. Operational review demonstrates that the Hikma University College is facing pressure to meet its annual enrollment targets. A senior administrator suggests overlooking minor discrepancies in the academic transcripts of several promising candidates to expedite their admission, arguing that this will help secure the required student numbers. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action in accordance with Hikma University College's regulatory framework for entrance examinations and admissions? Option A. Expedite the admission process for promising candidates by overlooking minor discrepancies in their academic transcripts to help meet enrollment targets, as suggested by the senior administrator. Option B. Prioritize candidates who have received informal recommendations from influential individuals, even if their applications do not fully meet all stated admission requirements. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of all applications, ensuring strict adherence to the established admission criteria and procedures, and address any discrepancies through the officially sanctioned channels before making admission decisions. Option D. Accept applications with incomplete documentation from candidates who appear to have strong potential, with the intention of resolving the missing information after their provisional admission. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of all applications, ensuring strict adherence to the established admission criteria and procedures, and address any discrepancies through the officially sanctioned channels before making admission decisions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's operational needs and the ethical imperative to maintain academic integrity and fair admission processes. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt individuals to overlook or bend established procedures, potentially compromising the fairness of the entrance examination. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with the fundamental principles of ethical conduct and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial review of all applications, adhering strictly to the established admission criteria and procedures as outlined by Hikma University College's regulatory framework for entrance examinations. This includes verifying the authenticity of submitted documents, ensuring all candidates meet the minimum academic prerequisites, and conducting the examination in a manner that guarantees fairness and prevents any form of academic misconduct. This approach is ethically sound and compliant with the Hikma University College's internal regulations and any overarching educational guidelines governing university admissions, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on merit and that the integrity of the admission process is upheld. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize meeting enrollment targets by accepting applications that do not fully meet the stated criteria, such as overlooking discrepancies in academic records or allowing candidates with incomplete documentation to proceed without proper resolution. This violates the principle of fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants and contravenes the spirit and letter of the Hikma University College's admission regulations, which are designed to ensure a qualified and deserving student body. Another incorrect approach would be to expedite the review process for certain applicants based on informal recommendations or perceived institutional benefit, without conducting the same level of scrutiny applied to other candidates. This introduces bias and undermines the transparency and impartiality mandated by the university's admission policies. Such actions can lead to accusations of favoritism and damage the reputation of the institution. A further incorrect approach would be to disregard evidence of potential academic misconduct during the examination process, such as instances of cheating or plagiarism, in an effort to avoid disqualifying candidates and impacting enrollment numbers. This directly violates the academic integrity standards expected by Hikma University College and any governing educational bodies, compromising the quality of education and the value of the degrees awarded. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the Hikma University College's admission policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with conflicting pressures, professionals must prioritize adherence to these regulations and ethical principles. This involves seeking clarification from superiors or relevant committees if ambiguity exists, documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them, and maintaining a commitment to fairness, transparency, and academic integrity above all else. The focus should always be on upholding the established standards and ensuring that the admission process is both robust and equitable. Question 8. The assessment process reveals that a prospective student, in preparing for the Hikma University College entrance exam, has been actively participating in online forums where past exam questions are discussed and shared, and has also acquired a set of unofficial study guides that claim to contain predictive questions for the upcoming exam. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates adherence to the Hikma University College's regulatory framework for entrance examinations? Option A. Utilizing official study materials provided by Hikma University College and engaging in study groups focused on understanding core concepts and problem-solving techniques. Option B. Collaborating with other applicants to solve specific questions from shared unofficial study guides, aiming to replicate exam conditions, Option C. Obtaining and extensively studying unofficial study guides that claim to predict exam questions and discussing specific past exam questions found on online forums. Option D. Relying on memorization of answers from unofficial online forums and study guides without verifying the authenticity or origin of the material. The correct answer is A. Utilizing official study materials provided by Hikma University College and engaging in study groups focused on understanding core concepts and problem-solving techniques. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Hikma University College's specific entrance examination regulations, particularly concerning academic integrity and the appropriate use of external resources. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between permissible preparation methods and prohibited forms of academic dishonesty. The correct approach involves utilizing officially sanctioned preparatory materials and engaging in collaborative study groups that focus on conceptual understanding and problem-solving strategies without direct access to or reproduction of exam content. This aligns with the Hikma University College's commitment to fostering an environment of academic honesty and ensuring that all candidates are assessed on their own merit and preparation. Regulatory frameworks for university entrance exams typically emphasize fairness, equal opportunity, and the prevention of any form of cheating or undue advantage. Adhering to these principles means avoiding any action that could compromise the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach that involves seeking out leaked or unauthorized copies of past exam papers, or using crib sheets during preparation that directly mirror exam questions, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This constitutes academic dishonesty, which is universally prohibited by educational institutions. Such actions undermine the validity of the assessment, create an unfair playing field for other candidates, and violate the trust placed in applicants by the university. Furthermore, engaging in such practices can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the entrance exam and potential blacklisting from future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on memorization of answers from unofficial online forums without understanding the underlying principles, also falls short. While not as overtly dishonest as obtaining leaked papers, it demonstrates a lack of genuine comprehension and a focus on superficial performance rather than deep learning, which is contrary to the educational objectives of Hikma University College. This approach risks misinterpreting questions or being unable to adapt knowledge to slightly different scenarios, ultimately failing to demonstrate the required academic aptitude. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policy and examination guidelines. Candidates should prioritize ethical conduct and fair play. When in doubt about the permissibility of a preparation method, it is always best to err on the side of caution and seek clarification from the university's admissions office. The focus should always be on developing genuine understanding and skills through legitimate means, rather than seeking shortcuts that compromise integrity. Question 9. Operational review demonstrates that during the Hikma University College entrance exam, an influential community member approaches the invigilator and subtly requests that a specific candidate be given a little extra consideration during the assessment. Invigilator is aware that the examination's integrity is paramount and that all candidates must be treated equally according to the Hikma University College entrance exam's established guidelines. What is the most appropriate course of action for the invigilator? Option A. Discreetly provide the candidate with subtle hints or additional time, justifying it as a way to ensure the candidate performs to their potential without overtly violating rules. Option B. Ignore the request and continue with the examination, assuming the influential individual will not pursue the matter further. Option C. Report the incident immediately to the examination board or designated authority, detailing the request and the individual making it, while continuing to administer the exam impartially. Option D. Politely decline the request, stating that all candidates are assessed under the same strict guidelines, and continue with the examination as planned, ensuring no deviation from the established protocol. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the request, stating that all candidates are assessed under the same strict guidelines, and continue with the examination as planned, ensuring no deviation from the established protocol. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise fair evaluation. Hikma University College entrance exams regulatory framework emphasizes a standardized and objective assessment process. Therefore, any action that deviates from this established protocol, especially under duress, risks undermining the credibility of the examination and the institution. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established examination procedures and reporting any irregularities or external influences through the designated channels. This upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and academic rigor mandated by the Hikma University College entrance exam regulations. By following the official protocol, the invigilator ensures that all candidates are assessed on an equal footing, preventing any perception of bias or preferential treatment. This aligns with the ethical obligation to maintain the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach would be to directly comply with the request from the influential individual. This action would violate the core principles of the Hikma University College entrance exam by introducing an unfair advantage to a specific candidate, thereby compromising the objectivity and validity of the assessment. Such a deviation from protocol constitutes a serious ethical breach and a violation of regulatory guidelines designed to ensure a level playing field for all applicants. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request and take no action. While seemingly neutral, this inaction fails to address a potential threat to the examination's integrity. The Hikma University College entrance exam regulations implicitly require proactive measures to safeguard the examination process. Failing to report or address the situation leaves the examination vulnerable to future interference and does not uphold the invigilator's responsibility to ensure a fair testing environment. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the Hikma University College entrance exams regulatory framework and ethical guidelines. Professionals must prioritize adherence to established procedures and report any attempts to subvert these procedures through the appropriate internal channels. This involves a commitment to impartiality, integrity, and the protection of the examination's credibility, even when faced with pressure from influential parties. Question 10. Operational review demonstrates that an applicant for Hikma University College has narrowly missed the passing score on the entrance examination due to a documented personal emergency during the test. The applicant's family is appealing for special consideration, highlighting the applicant's strong academic record in secondary school and the extenuating circumstances. Which of the following actions best upholds the regulatory framework of the Hikma University College entrance exam? Option A. Grant the applicant admission based on their secondary school academic record and the extenuating circumstances, bypassing the entrance examination score requirement. Option B. Reevaluate only the sections of the examination where the applicant performed poorly, attempting to identify any potential scoring errors that might bring the overall score above the passing mark. Option C. Seek informal verbal approval from a senior faculty member to admit the applicant, citing the personal emergency and strong secondary school record as justification for waiving the examination score. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's examination performance against all established criteria, and if the score remains below the passing threshold, inform the applicant of the outcome based strictly on the examination results as per the regulations. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's examination performance against all established criteria, and if the score remains below the passing threshold, inform the applicant of the outcome based strictly on the examination results as per the regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's operational needs and the strict adherence to its own entrance examination regulations. The pressure to admit a qualified candidate, especially one with a compelling personal narrative, can create an environment where deviations from established procedures might seem justifiable to some. However, maintaining the integrity and fairness of the Hikma University College entrance exam is paramount. Upholding the regulatory framework ensures equal opportunity for all applicants and preserves the credibility of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial review of the applicant's examination performance against the established criteria, without allowing external factors or personal appeals to influence the outcome beyond what the regulations permit. This aligns with the core principles of regulatory compliance and ethical admissions, ensuring that all candidates are assessed on the same objective standards. The Al-Hikma University College entrance exam regulations are designed to provide a transparent and equitable evaluation process. An incorrect approach that bypasses the standard review process to accommodate the applicant's circumstances would represent a significant regulatory failure. It undermines the established examination rules, potentially creating a precedent for future exceptions and eroding the fairness of the admission system. This could lead to accusations of bias and a loss of trust in the university's evaluation procedures. Another incorrect approach that involves selectively re-evaluating parts of the examination to find a justification for admission, rather than assessing the overall performance against the defined criteria, is also a regulatory violation. This selective application of rules is a form of manipulation that compromises the integrity of the examination. A further incorrect approach that involves seeking informal approval from a senior administrator to overlook a specific requirement, without a formal amendment or waiver process as outlined in the regulations, is a breach of procedural compliance. This circumvents the established governance and accountability mechanisms designed to ensure fairness and consistency. The professional decision-making process in such situations should always begin with a clear understanding and strict adherence to the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam regulations. When faced with a situation that appears to warrant an exception, the professional should first consult the relevant sections of the regulation to determine if any provisions exist for such circumstances. If no such provisions are found, the decision must be based solely on the applicant's performance as measured by the established criteria. Any deviation or request for exception must be handled through the formal channels and documented procedures outlined by the university, ensuring transparency and accountability. The focus must remain on upholding the integrity of the examination process for all applicants. Question 11. Operational review demonstrates a potential for streamlining the management of candidate application data and examination materials for the upcoming Al-Hikma University College entrance exam. The current manual processes are time-consuming and prone to minor errors. The university is considering adopting a new digital platform for data management and a revised system for handling physical examination papers. Which of the following actions best ensures compliance with the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's regulatory framework? Option A. Implement a new digital system based on general industry best practices for data management and security, assuming these will meet the exam's requirements. Option B. Introduce the new digital platform and revised material handling system immediately to improve efficiency and address any potential regulatory issues that may arise afterwards. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's specific regulations pertaining to candidate data privacy, security, and examination material handling, and then design system changes that strictly adhere to these requirements. Option D. Proceed with adopting a new digital platform and revised material handling system based on informal discussions with IT staff and department heads, without formal regulatory consultation. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's specific regulations pertaining to candidate data privacy, security, and examination material handling, and then design system changes that strictly adhere to these requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's operational needs and the strict adherence to the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's regulatory framework. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring that any operational adjustments do not inadvertently compromise the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination process, which is governed by specific, likely detailed, regulations. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency with compliance. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's specific regulations concerning examination administration and candidate data handling. This approach prioritizes understanding the exact requirements for secure storage, access, and processing of candidate information, as well as the procedures for managing examination materials. By consulting these specific regulations, the university can identify permissible methods for operational improvement that align with the exam's integrity standards, thereby ensuring compliance and maintaining fairness for all applicants. This is ethically and regulatorily sound, as it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and data protection, as mandated by the exam's governing body. An incorrect approach that involves implementing a new digital system without a comprehensive review of the Hikma University College entrance exam-specific regulations risks violating data privacy rules. If the system's security protocols or data handling procedures do not meet the exam's stipulated requirements, it could lead to unauthorized access or breaches of sensitive candidate information, a direct contravention of regulatory mandates. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on general IT best practices without cross-referencing the exam-specific guidelines, fails to acknowledge that the Hikma University College entrance exam may have unique or more stringent requirements than standard IT protocols. This oversight could result in non-compliance with specific rules designed to ensure the exam's integrity and fairness. A third incorrect approach, which involves proceeding with changes based on informal discussions without documented regulatory approval, bypasses the necessary due diligence and creates a significant risk of non-compliance, potentially invalidating examination processes or leading to disciplinary action. Professionals in such situations should adopt a systematic decision-making process. This involves 1. Identifying the specific regulatory framework governing the activity, in this case, the Hikma University College entrance exam regulations. 2. Understanding the operational objective and potential changes. 3. Conducting a detailed gap analysis between the proposed changes and the existing regulations. 4. Consulting with relevant compliance officers or legal counsel if ambiguities exist. 5. Documenting all decisions and justifications, particularly those involving deviations or interpretations of regulations. 6. Implementing changes only after ensuring full compliance and obtaining necessary approvals. Question 12. Operational review demonstrates that a highly qualified applicant for Hikma University College was unable to complete a specific section of the entrance examination due to a sudden, unforeseen technical malfunction with the examination software, which was confirmed by the invigilator. The applicant has a strong academic record and has demonstrated significant potential in preliminary assessments. What is the most appropriate course of action according to the Hikma University College entrance exam regulations? Option A. Initiate a formal review process to assess the impact of the technical malfunction on the applicant's overall score and determine if a re-examination or alternative assessment is permissible under the established guidelines. Option B. Advise the applicant that the examination results are final and that no exceptions can be made, regardless of the technical malfunction. Option C. Grant the applicant immediate admission based on their strong academic record and the confirmed technical issue, bypassing further examination procedures. Option D. Allow the applicant to retake only the affected section of the examination at their convenience, without formal oversight or documentation of the process. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal review process to assess the impact of the technical malfunction on the applicant's overall score and determine if a re-examination or alternative assessment is permissible under the established guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's operational needs and the strict adherence to its established entrance examination regulations. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to admit a promising candidate with the imperative to maintain the integrity and fairness of the examination process. Any deviation from the established rules, even with good intentions, can undermine the credibility of the entire admission system and potentially create a precedent for future noncompliance. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented review of the specific circumstances against the Hikma University College entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to established procedures. By consulting the relevant examination guidelines and seeking formal approval for any exceptional consideration, the university upholds its regulatory obligations. This ensures that decisions are made based on established criteria and are defensible, thereby protecting the integrity of the entrance examination process and maintaining public trust in the university's admission standards. An incorrect approach that involves immediate admission based on perceived potential without a formal review fails to uphold the regulatory framework. This bypasses the established procedures designed to ensure a standardized and equitable assessment for all applicants. Such an action could be seen as preferential treatment, violating the principle of equal opportunity for all candidates who have undergone the standard examination process. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the candidate's situation outright without any form of review or consideration, might be overly rigid and fail to acknowledge potential extenuating circumstances that the regulations might implicitly or explicitly allow for. While adherence to regulations is paramount, a complete lack of flexibility in exceptional cases could be seen as lacking in professional judgment and potentially overlooking valid reasons for a candidate's performance, though this is less of a regulatory failure and more of an ethical consideration regarding fairness. However, in the context of strict entrance exam regulations, prioritizing the letter of the law over any potential exceptions is generally the safer and more compliant route. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the applicable regulations. When an anomaly arises, the first step is to identify the specific regulations that are relevant. Next, gather all pertinent facts surrounding the anomaly. Then, consult the official documentation for guidance on how to handle such situations, including any provisions for exceptions or appeals. If the regulations are unclear or do not explicitly cover the situation, the next step is to seek clarification from the designated authority within the university responsible for the entrance examination. Any proposed deviation from the standard procedure must be formally documented and approved by the appropriate governing body, ensuring accountability and transparency throughout the decision-making process. Question 13. Strategic planning requires Hikma University College to consider various funding avenues. If a substantial donation is offered by an anonymous benefactor, what is the most responsible course of action for the college's leadership to ensure ethical and regulatory compliance? Option A. Accept the donation, but stipulate that the funds can only be used for general operating expenses, without specific inquiry into the benefactor's background. Option B. Immediately accept the donation to address urgent financial needs, with a plan to investigate the benefactor's identity and the source of funds later. Option C. Decline the donation outright due to the anonymity, prioritizing the avoidance of any potential reputational risk over immediate financial gain. Option D. Initiate a thorough due diligence process to verify the benefactor's legitimacy and the source of funds, while also assessing any potential conflicts of interest before formally accepting the donation. The correct answer is B. Immediately accept the donation to address urgent financial needs, with a plan to investigate the benefactor's identity and the source of funds later. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations of Hikma University College. The pressure to secure funding can lead to overlooking potential conflicts of interest or misrepresenting the institution's financial standing, which are critical ethical and regulatory breaches. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all fundraising activities align with the college's mission, values, and the specific regulatory framework governing educational institutions in its jurisdiction. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process for all potential donors and funding sources. This includes verifying the legitimacy of the donor, understanding the source of their funds, and ensuring that any proposed donation does not come with strings attached that could compromise the academic integrity or operational independence of Hikma University College. This aligns with the ethical principles of transparency, accountability, and responsible stewardship of institutional resources, as well as any specific regulations that mandate disclosure and conflict of interest management for educational institutions. Adhering to these principles safeguards the college's reputation and ensures compliance with its governing laws. An incorrect approach that involves accepting a significant donation from an entity with a questionable reputation or unclear funding origins would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to reputational damage, potential legal repercussions, and a violation of ethical standards that demand integrity in all financial dealings. Furthermore, accepting funds without proper vetting could inadvertently associate the college with illicit activities, undermining its educational mission and public trust. Another incorrect approach, accepting funds with undisclosed conditions that could influence curriculum development or faculty appointments, represents a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This compromises academic freedom and institutional autonomy, which are cornerstones of higher education. Such an action would likely violate regulations designed to protect the independence of educational institutions and could lead to sanctions or loss of accreditation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder review. Before accepting any significant donation, a committee comprising representatives from the finance department, legal counsel, academic affairs, and ethics oversight should assess the proposal. This committee should evaluate the donor's background, the proposed use of funds, and any potential conflicts of interest against the college's policies and the relevant regulatory framework. Transparency and adherence to established protocols are paramount to ensuring that all decisions are ethically sound and legally compliant. Question 14. Strategic planning requires a careful assessment of potential funding sources to ensure alignment with institutional values and regulatory compliance. Hikma University College has received an unsolicited offer of a significant donation from an anonymous benefactor. What is the most appropriate initial step for the college's administration to take in evaluating this offer? Option A. Immediately accept the donation to address pressing financial needs, with a plan to investigate the source later. Option B. Publicly announce the generous offer to gauge community support and potential for matching donations. Option C. Politely decline the offer due to the anonymity of the benefactor, to avoid any potential reputational risks. Option D. Form a committee to conduct thorough due diligence on the potential source of the funds and any associated conditions, while maintaining confidentiality. The correct answer is A. Immediately accept the donation to address pressing financial needs, with a plan to investigate the source later. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations of the university. The Hikma University College entrance exam framework emphasizes integrity and responsible financial management. A hasty decision without proper due diligence could lead to regulatory noncompliance, reputational damage, and ultimately, a detrimental impact on the college's mission and student welfare. The correct approach involves a thorough review of potential funding sources, ensuring they align with Hikma University College's ethical guidelines and any applicable regulations governing educational institutions. This includes verifying the source of funds, understanding any associated conditions or obligations, and confirming that the funding does not compromise academic independence or institutional values. This aligns with the principles of good governance and fiduciary responsibility expected of educational institutions, ensuring that all financial dealings are transparent, ethical, and in the best interest of the college and its students. An incorrect approach of accepting the donation without scrutiny fails to uphold the principle of due diligence. This could lead to accepting funds from sources that are ethically questionable or even illegal, thereby violating the college's commitment to integrity and potentially exposing it to legal repercussions. Another incorrect approach of immediately rejecting the offer without any investigation misses a potentially valuable opportunity that could benefit the college and its students. This demonstrates a lack of strategic thinking and an unwillingness to explore options that, upon proper vetting, could be entirely appropriate and beneficial. Finally, an approach that prioritizes immediate financial gain over ethical considerations would be a severe misstep, as it undermines the core values of an educational institution and could lead to long-term damage to its reputation and accreditation. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and regulatory compliance. This involves a multi-step process. First, understanding the nature of the proposed funding and its source. Second, conducting thorough due diligence to assess any potential risks or conflicts of interest. Third, consulting relevant internal policies and external regulations. And fourth, making a decision based on a comprehensive evaluation of all factors, ensuring alignment with the institution's mission and values. Question 15. System analysis indicates that an applicant for Hikma University College has been asked to submit a personal essay as part of their entrance examination. The applicant has found several excellent essays online that closely match the prompt. Which of the following actions best demonstrates an understanding of academic integrity requirements for this examination? Option A. Submitting an essay that is a compilation of paragraphs from various online sources with no citations. Option B. Submitting an essay that is entirely the applicant's own original work with proper citation of any external sources consulted for background information. Option C. Submitting an essay that is largely copied from online sources with only minor changes to sentence structure. Option D. Submitting an essay that has been heavily paraphrased from an online source with a brief mention of the source at the end. The correct answer is C. Submitting an essay that is largely copied from online sources with only minor changes to sentence structure. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected at Hikma University College. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between acceptable academic practices and those that constitute plagiarism or academic dishonesty, which are serious offenses. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the applicant's response reflects a genuine commitment to ethical scholarship and adherence to university regulations. The correct approach involves recognizing that submitting work that is not entirely one's own without proper attribution is a violation of academic integrity. This approach aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty and originality that underpin all academic institutions, including Hikma University College. Specifically, it reflects an understanding of the university's policies against plagiarism, which are designed to uphold the value of original thought and fair assessment. By identifying the act of submitting another's work as their own as unacceptable, the applicant demonstrates awareness of these critical regulations. An incorrect approach that involves submitting a paper that is largely copied from online sources without proper citation fails to acknowledge the university's strict stance against plagiarism. This is a direct violation of academic integrity policies, which mandate that all submitted work must be original and properly attributed. Another incorrect approach, which involves paraphrasing extensively from a source without providing any citation, also constitutes academic dishonesty. While paraphrasing itself is a legitimate academic skill, doing so without attribution is a form of plagiarism, as it presents another's ideas as one's own. Finally, an approach that suggests that minor edits to an existing text are sufficient to consider it original work fundamentally misunderstands the concept of academic originality and the university's expectations regarding intellectual property. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policy. Applicants should always prioritize honesty, originality, and proper citation. When in doubt about whether a particular action constitutes academic misconduct, it is always best to err on the side of caution and seek clarification from university officials or consult the relevant academic regulations. The guiding principle should be to ensure that all submitted work is a true reflection of the applicant's own knowledge and effort, and that all sources are acknowledged appropriately. Question 16. Quality control measures reveal a potential discrepancy between the stated academic qualifications on an applicant's submitted transcript and information provided in their personal statement for the Hikma University College entrance exam. The admissions committee needs to determine the most appropriate course of action. Option A. Proceed with the application as is, assuming the personal statement is a more subjective representation and the transcript is the definitive record. Option B. Immediately reject the application due to the suspected misrepresentation without further investigation. Option C. Contact the applicant's referees to inquire about the discrepancy without informing the applicant directly. Option D. Initiate a formal review process to verify the discrepancy, which may involve requesting further documentation from the applicant or contacting the issuing institution, while temporarily placing the application on hold. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal review process to verify the discrepancy, which may involve requesting further documentation from the applicant or contacting the issuing institution, while temporarily placing the application on hold. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for academic integrity with the practicalities of university admissions. The admissions committee must ensure that the evaluation process is fair, transparent, and adheres to Hikma University College's established admission policies, and any relevant regulatory guidelines for higher education institutions in its jurisdiction. The core of the challenge lies in determining the appropriate response when a potential discrepancy is identified, without prejudicing the applicant or compromising the integrity of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based review of the applicant's submitted documents and qualifications. This entails cross-referencing information, seeking clarification from the applicant if necessary, and consulting with relevant academic departments or external bodies if the discrepancy is significant or requires specialized verification. This method upholds the principle of fairness by giving the applicant an opportunity to address any perceived issues and ensures that decisions are based on verified information, aligning with ethical standards of due diligence and academic integrity expected of an educational institution. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based on an unverified discrepancy. This fails to uphold the principle of procedural fairness, as it denies the applicant the right to explain or rectify potential errors. It also risks making an arbitrary decision, which could be challenged and damage the reputation of Hikma University College. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the discrepancy entirely. This compromises the integrity of the admissions process by potentially admitting unqualified candidates, undermining the academic standards of the institution, and violating the trust placed in the admissions committee to select suitable students. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes thorough investigation, fairness, and adherence to established policies. This involves 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential implications. 2. Gathering all relevant information and evidence. 3. Consulting internal policies and any applicable external regulations. 4. Communicating with the applicant to seek clarification or provide an opportunity to respond. 5. Making a decision based on verified facts and established criteria. 6. Documenting the entire process and the rationale for the final decision. Question 17. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a proposed partnership with a company known for questionable labor practices could significantly boost the university's research funding and infrastructure development. However, this partnership raises serious ethical concerns regarding the university's commitment to social responsibility and the well-being of its students and faculty. Which approach best upholds the Hikma University College's ethical framework and professional standards? Option A. Postpone a decision on the partnership until further investigations into the company's practices can be completed without setting a deadline. Option B. Proceed with the partnership, focusing on the financial benefits and assuming the company's practices are outside the university's direct control. Option C. Seek to negotiate minor concessions from the company on labor practices while still accepting the partnership to secure the funding. Option D. Reject the partnership outright due to the ethical concerns, even though it means forfeiting substantial financial resources. The correct answer is B. Proceed with the partnership, focusing on the financial benefits and assuming the company's practices are outside the university's direct control. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate financial benefits of a proposed project against potential long-term ethical and regulatory implications. The decision-maker must exercise careful judgment to ensure that the pursuit of economic advantage does not lead to a breach of professional conduct or adherence to the Hikma University College's ethical guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and prioritizing ethical considerations over purely financial gains when they conflict. The correct approach involves prioritizing the university's commitment to academic integrity and ethical research practices, even if it means foregoing immediate financial benefits. This aligns with the Hikma University College's foundational principles, which would likely emphasize responsible conduct, transparency, and the avoidance of conflicts of interest. Adhering to these principles ensures that the university's reputation and the trust of its stakeholders are maintained, which are invaluable long-term assets. This approach is ethically sound as it upholds the duty of care and professional responsibility of the academic community and society at large. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the projected revenue, disregarding the ethical concerns, fails to acknowledge the university's ethical obligations. This would be a direct violation of professional conduct, potentially leading to reputational damage, loss of funding, and disciplinary action. Another incorrect approach that attempts to find a superficial compromise without genuinely addressing the ethical conflict would also be professionally unacceptable. Such an approach would demonstrate a lack of integrity and a failure to uphold the spirit of ethical governance. A third incorrect approach that involves delaying a decision indefinitely to avoid confronting the ethical dilemma is also a failure of professional responsibility, as it allows a potentially problematic situation to persist. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying all relevant ethical principles and regulatory requirements. This should be followed by a thorough assessment of the potential consequences of each available course of action, considering both financial and ethical impacts. When conflicts arise, the framework should guide the decision-maker to prioritize ethical considerations and seek advice from relevant committees or senior leadership if necessary, ensuring that decisions are transparent, justifiable, and aligned with the institution's core values. Question 18. The efficiency study reveals that a member of the Hikma University College Admissions Committee has a close personal relationship with an applicant undergoing the entrance exam evaluation. This committee member is aware of the applicant's academic background and personal qualities. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for this committee member? Option A. Proceed with the evaluation as usual, believing that personal objectivity can be maintained and that the applicant's merits will speak for themselves. Option B. Abstain from participating in any discussion or decision-making process concerning the applicant's admission and formally declare the personal relationship to the admissions committee chair. Option C. Delegate the evaluation of the applicant's file to a trusted junior colleague within the admissions department, ensuring the colleague is aware of the applicant's general profile. Option D. Provide a confidential assessment of the applicant's strengths and weaknesses to the admissions committee, highlighting their potential for success at the university. The correct answer is B. Abstain from participating in any discussion or decision-making process concerning the applicant's admission and formally declare the personal relationship to the admissions committee chair. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a potential conflict of interest scenario that is professionally challenging due to the need to balance academic integrity with personal relationships. Hikma University College, like any reputable institution, has a vested interest in ensuring its admissions process is fair, objective, and free from undue influence. The challenge lies in upholding these principles while acknowledging the personal connection. Careful judgment is required to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, which can erode trust in the admissions process. The correct approach involves recusing oneself from the decision-making process for the applicant in question. This demonstrates a commitment to impartiality and adherence to ethical standards. Specifically, university regulations and ethical guidelines for academic institutions typically mandate that individuals with a personal relationship to an applicant must declare this relationship and abstain from participating in any evaluation or decision-making concerning that applicant. This upholds the principle of fairness and prevents any perception of favoritism, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the Hikma University College entrance exam. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with evaluating the applicant's application without disclosure. This failure directly violates ethical obligations to maintain objectivity and transparency. It creates a significant conflict of interest, as personal bias, even if unconscious, could influence the evaluation. Such an action undermines the fairness of the admissions process and could lead to accusations of favoritism, damaging the reputation of the university and the credibility of its entrance exams. Another incorrect approach would be to discuss the applicant's strengths and weaknesses with other admissions committee members without disclosing the personal relationship. While not directly making the decision, this action still introduces potential bias into the deliberations. Other committee members might be influenced by the perceived insights of the individual with the personal connection, even if they are unaware of the full extent of that connection. This circumvents the spirit of recusal and can still lead to an unfair outcome. A third incorrect approach would be to delegate the evaluation to a junior colleague without any oversight or disclosure. This is also professionally unacceptable. It abdicates responsibility for upholding ethical standards and can lead to a situation where the junior colleague is unaware of the potential conflict, or worse, is implicitly pressured to favor the applicant. True ethical practice requires active management of conflicts of interest, not passive delegation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear framework. 1. Identify the potential conflict of interest. 2. Consult relevant university policies, codes of conduct, and ethical guidelines. 3. Disclose the conflict to the appropriate authority or committee. 4. Recuse oneself from any decision-making or evaluation related to the conflicted matter. 5. Document the disclosure and recusal. This systematic approach ensures that ethical principles are prioritized and that the integrity of academic processes is maintained. Question 19. Strategic planning requires a comprehensive evaluation of potential funding sources to ensure alignment with institutional values and regulatory compliance. Hikma University College has received an unsolicited offer of significant financial support from a new donor. What is the most appropriate initial step in evaluating this offer? Option A. Sign a junior administrative assistant to gather basic contact information and forward it to the finance department for a preliminary assessment. Option B. Inform the donor that the college is interested, but requires them to provide a detailed proposal outlining the intended use of their funds before any commitment is made. Option C. Immediately accept the offer to address the college's pressing financial needs, with a plan to review the donor's background later. Option D. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the donor's background, the source of their wealth, and any potential reputational risks or conflicts of interest associated with accepting their funds. Correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the donor's background, the source of their wealth, and any potential reputational risks or conflicts of interest associated with accepting their funds. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations of the university. The Hikma University College entrance exam framework emphasizes integrity and responsible financial management. A hasty decision without proper due diligence could lead to regulatory noncompliance, reputational damage, and ultimately, a detrimental impact on the college's mission and student welfare. The correct approach involves a thorough review of potential funding sources, ensuring they align with Hikma University College's ethical guidelines and any applicable regulations governing educational institutions. This includes verifying the source of funds, understanding any associated conditions or obligations, and confirming that the funding does not compromise academic independence or institutional values. This aligns with the principles of good governance and fiduciary responsibility expected of educational institutions, ensuring that all financial dealings are transparent, ethical, and in the best interest of the college and its students. An incorrect approach would be to immediately accept the offer without any scrutiny. This fails to uphold the ethical duty of care and due diligence. It risks accepting funds from sources that may have questionable origins or impose conditions that could negatively influence academic programs or institutional integrity, potentially violating unspoken ethical codes of conduct for educational bodies. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize the immediate financial need over a comprehensive assessment of the donor's intentions and the potential impact on the college's reputation. This short-sightedness can lead to future complications, such as public backlash or regulatory investigations, if the donor's activities are later found to be unethical or illegal. A further incorrect approach would be to delegate the decision-making solely to a junior administrative staff member without adequate oversight or established criteria. This bypasses the necessary governance structures and risks a decision being made based on incomplete information or a lack of understanding of the broader institutional implications, violating principles of accountability. Professionals in such situations should employ a structured decision-making process. This involves clearly defining the problem, identifying all relevant stakeholders and their interests, gathering comprehensive information about all potential solutions, evaluating each option against established ethical principles and regulatory requirements, and finally, making a well-reasoned decision with clear justification. This process ensures that decisions are not only effective in the short term, but also sustainable and ethically sound in the long term. Question 20. Upon reviewing the examination procedures for the Hikma University College entrance exam, a proctor observes a candidate exhibiting signs of distress and discreetly signaling for assistance. The proctor is aware that the college emphasizes a commitment to academic integrity and fair evaluation in its admissions process. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor to take in this situation? Strictly adhering to the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam's regulatory framework and guidelines. Option A. Ignore the candidate's signaling, assuming it is a minor issue that will resolve itself, and continue monitoring the rest of the examination hall. Option B. Report the candidate's behavior to the examination authorities for potential disciplinary action without any immediate intervention or clarification from the proctor. Option C. Discreetly provide the candidate with a subtle hint or clarification regarding the question they appear to be struggling with, to alleviate their distress and ensure they can complete the exam. Option D. Immediately and discreetly approach the candidate, remind them of the examination rules regarding unauthorized assistance, and offer to clarify general instructions if they are confused about the exam format, without providing any content-specific help. The correct answer is C. Discreetly provide the candidate with a subtle hint or clarification regarding the question they appear to be struggling with, to alleviate their distress and ensure they can complete the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially at a reputable institution like Al-Hikma University College, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation, ensuring that any assistance provided aligns with the college's stated principles and the broader ethical standards of academic pursuit. The correct approach involves prioritizing the integrity of the examination process and the principles of fair assessment. This means ensuring that all candidates have an equal opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and abilities without external, unauthorized assistance. Adhering to the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam-specific guidelines, which implicitly or explicitly prohibit any form of cheating or academic dishonesty, is paramount. This approach upholds the value of genuine learning and ensures that admitted students possess the foundational knowledge and skills necessary for success at the college. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with direct answers or hints during the exam. This constitutes academic dishonesty and directly violates the spirit and likely the letter of the Al-Hikma University College entrance exam regulations. Such an action undermines the fairness of the examination, devalues the efforts of other students, and compromises the integrity of the admissions process. It also fails to assess the student's actual capabilities, potentially leading to their admission into a program for which they are not adequately prepared, ultimately harming both the student and the institution. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request and proceed as if nothing happened, without any form of guidance or clarification. While this avoids direct complicity in cheating, it fails to address the student's underlying concern and potentially misses an opportunity to reinforce ethical conduct. A professional decision-making process in such situations should involve: first, understanding the student's request and the context. Second, consulting the specific Al-Hikma University College entrance exam regulations regarding academic integrity and candidate conduct. Third, clearly communicating the boundaries of acceptable behavior and the consequences of violating them. And fourth, offering appropriate ethical support, such as clarifying exam instructions or directing the student to pre-exam preparation resources, if permissible and available.